The story of silver coins in Sri Lanka begins long ago. It starts around the 3rd century BCE. At this time, the island did not have its own coins. Instead, people used coins that came from mainland India. These early coins were brought to Sri Lanka by traders and merchants. They sailed across the Pulk Strait, carrying goods and new ideas. These Indian coins, known as punch-marked coins or Puranas, were the very first form of currency to circulate widely on the island. They were small, irregularly shaped pieces of silver, stamped with various symbols. Each symbol represented a different authority, like a kingdom or a guild that guaranteed its value. The arrival of these silver coins was a major change for the island's economy. Before coins, trade was done through barter. People exchanged goods directly, like rice for cloth or spices for tools. This system worked, but was often inefficient. The introduction of silver punch-marked coins provided a universal medium of exchange. It made trade simpler and more organized. Merchants from powerful Indian empires, such as the Mauryan Empire, used these coins extensively. Their presence in Sri Lanka shows the deep economic connections that existed between the island and the subcontinent, even in ancient times. These coins were not just tools for trade. They were symbols of a growing, interconnected world. Buddhism also played a crucial role in bringing these coins to Sri Lanka. According to our chronicles, the missionary expeditions sent by the Mauryan Emperor Ashoka were instrumental. These missions did not just bring religious teachings, they also brought cultural practices, including the use of currency. The monks and their followers would have carried these silver coins for their travels and for making donations to newly established monasteries. Archaeological finds confirm this. Many early Indian punch-marked coins have been discovered at ancient Buddhist sites across Sri Lanka, such as Anuradhapura and Tisamaharama. This shows a clear link between the spread of Buddhism and the adoption of a monetary system. These first silver coins laid the foundation for Sri Lanka's own numismatic history. They familiarized the local population with the concept of money. People learned to trust the value held within these small pieces of stamped silver. The symbols on them, though foreign, became recognizable marks of worth. This early exposure to a sophisticated currency system was a critical first step. It paved the way for local rulers to eventually create their own distinct coins. The Indian punch-marked coins were therefore more than just currency. They were the seeds from which Sri Lanka's rich and long history of coinage would grow for over 2 millennia. After a period of using Indian coins, Sri Lankan rulers began to produce their own currency. This was a significant step towards establishing their sovereignty and economic independence. Around the 2nd century BCE, the first locally produced coins appeared. These were heavily inspired by the Indian punch-marked coins they replaced. They were also made of silver and used a similar manufacturing technique. However, these new coins carried symbols that were unique to the island. This marked the birth of a distinct Sri Lankan numismatic identity. The creation of these coins showed that local kingdoms were becoming more organized and powerful. The symbols stamped on these early local silver coins are fascinating. They give us clues about the culture and beliefs of the time. One of the most common symbols was the swastika. This was an ancient and auspicious symbol in both Hinduism and Buddhism, representing well-being and good fortune. Another prominent symbol was the sacred tree within a railing, often representing the Bodhi tree, which was central to Buddhism in Sri Lanka. Other marks included figures of elephants, bulls, and fish. These symbols were not random. They were chosen to convey authority and legitimacy. They told the user that the coin was genuine and backed by a local ruler. These early indigenous coins are often called elephant and swastika coins because these two motifs are frequently found together. They were typically made of silver or a silver-copper alloy. Unlike the Indian coins that had multiple punches from different authorities, the local coins often had a more unified design. This suggests a centralized issuing authority, likely the king in Anuradhapura. The minting process was still basic. molten metal was poured into clay molds or flattened into sheets, cut into pieces, and then stamped with dyes. The resulting coins were often varied in shape and weight, but they served their purpose as a trusted medium of exchange. The transition from using foreign coins to minting local ones was a gradual process. For a time, both Indian and Sri Lankan coins circulated side by side. People likely accepted both as valid forms of payment. However, the emergence of local coins with distinct symbols represents a key moment in the island's history. It was a declaration of cultural and political identity. These small pieces of silver were not just money, they were emblems of a growing civilization. They carried symbols that were meaningful to the people of the island, connecting the economy to their faith and their environment, and setting the stage for the more standardized coinage that would follow. The Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa periods, spanning from roughly the 4th century BCE to the 13th century CE, represent the classical golden ages of Sri Lankan civilization. During this long era, the island's coinage system evolved significantly. Rulers established more centralized control over the minting and circulation of currency. The early non-uniform silver punch-marked coins were gradually replaced by more standardized issues. These new coins were a clear sign of a stable and prosperous state. They reflected the power of the monarchy and the strength of the economy. The Kingdom of Anuradhapura, in particular, saw the development of a more organized currency system to manage its vast agricultural wealth and extensive trade networks. One of the most famous coins from this era is the silver Kahavanu. While the gold Kahavanu is more widely known, silver versions and fractions of it were also a crucial part of the economy. These coins were thicker and more uniform in shape and weight compared to their predecessors. They typically featured a standing king on one side and a seated figure on the other. This design, often called the octopus man style due to the stylized depiction of the figure, was borrowed from the coins of the Kushan Empire in India. However, Sri Lankan artists adapted it, creating a distinct local version that would be used for centuries. The production of these official coins was a state monopoly. The king's authority was stamped on every piece, guaranteeing its value. This created a reliable currency that was accepted throughout the kingdom. The silver coins were used for a variety of everyday transactions. Smaller denominations, known as massa, were likely used for buying food and other daily necessities. The consistency of these coins helped to unify the kingdom's economy. It made it easier to collect taxes, pay soldiers, and fund large-scale construction projects like the massive stupas and irrigation reservoirs for which this period is famous. The currency was the lifeblood of this complex society. During the Polonnaruwa period, which followed the fall of Anuradhapura, the coinage tradition continued, though with some changes. Rulers like Vijayabahu I and Parakramabahu the Great issued coins that largely followed the established design of the standing and seated king. However, their names were often added in Nagari script, a clear indication of royal authority. These coins, including silver issues, circulated widely and supported the kingdom's ambitious military campaigns and grand construction projects. The silver currency of these golden ages was more than just money. It was a symbol of royal power, economic stability, and the enduring legacy of Sri Lanka's classical kingdoms. Silver coins were deeply woven into the fabric of society during the Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa periods. They were not just confined to marketplaces. They played vital roles in religious life, military affairs, and international relations. One of the most significant uses of silver was for religious donations. Inscriptions found at ancient monasteries and temples frequently mention donations of kahapanas, the local term for punch-marked coins, and later, kahavanu coins. These donations were made by everyone, from kings and nobles to ordinary people. Offering silver to the Sangha, or the community of monks, was seen as a way to gain merit and support the spiritual heart of the kingdom. The military was another major recipient of silver currency. Maintaining a large and loyal army was essential for any king who wished to defend the island from invaders or unify the country under his rule. Soldiers needed to be paid, and silver coins were the primary means of doing so. Historical records and chronicles, such as the Mahavamsa, describe kings distributing wealth to their troops after successful campaigns. Paying soldiers in standardized coins ensured their loyalty and allowed them to purchase goods and services wherever they were stationed. This system was far more efficient than paying them with land or goods, especially during times of war when the army was on the move. International trade was perhaps the most important driver for the circulation of silver. Sri Lanka's strategic location in the Indian Ocean made it a central hub for maritime trade routes connecting the East and the West. Merchants from Rome, Persia, Arabia, and China all came to the island to trade. They brought their own coins, including Roman silver denarii and Persian silver dirhams, which have been found in large hoards across the island. In return, they sought Sri Lanka's famous spices, gems, and pearls. To facilitate this global commerce, a reliable local currency was essential. Sri Lankan silver coins were used alongside foreign ones, creating a dynamic and cosmopolitan economic environment. The circulation of both local and foreign silver coins highlights the island's role as a melting pot of cultures and economies. While local silver Kahavanu coins were used for internal administration and daily transactions, foreign silver coins were likely valued for their high purity and were used in large-scale international transactions. The presence of these foreign coins also influenced local minting practices over time. The economy was sophisticated enough to handle multiple currencies, with money changers likely playing a role in exchanging them. Silver was the universal language of trade, connecting Sri Lankan society to the wider world and bringing immense wealth to the island's kingdoms. Following the decline of the Polonnaruwa kingdom around the 13th century CE, Sri Lanka entered a period of political fragmentation. The center of power shifted from the dry north-central plains to the wetter, more defensible regions of the southwest. Several smaller kingdoms rose and fell, including those of Dambadenya, Gampola, and Kota. This political instability was accompanied by increasing influence from powerful South Indian dynasties, such as the Pandyas and the Cholas. This influence is clearly visible in the coinage of the period. The classic Sri Lankan design of the standing and seated king began to be replaced, or, modified with styles borrowed from Tamil kingdoms. The coins from this transitional era, often called the medieval period of Sri Lanka, show a distinct change in style and quality. Many of the silver and copper coins became more stylized and abstract. The human figures of the king became less detailed, sometimes appearing as little more than a collection of lines and dots. This style is very similar to the coins issued by the Chola dynasty, which had occupied parts of Sri Lanka in the 11th century. The inscriptions on the coins also changed. While earlier coins used Sinhala or Nagari script, some coins from this period featured Tamil script, reflecting the close political and cultural ties with South India. One of the most notable coins from this period is the Sethu coin, issued by the Arya Chakravarti dynasty of the Jaffna kingdom in the north. These copper coins, and likely some silver variants, featured a sacred bull, Nandi, on one side, a symbol associated with the Hindu god Shiva. The other side had the word Sethu in Tamil script. This word refers to the Ram Sethu, or Adam's Bridge, and was a title used by the rulers of the region. These coins are a clear departure from the Buddhist-inspired symbols of the Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa periods. They represent the establishment of a distinct Hindu-Tamil kingdom in the northern part of the island. This period of South Indian influence marked a significant diversification in Sri Lanka's numismatic landscape. The single, unified currency of the great classical kingdoms was gone. Instead, different regions used different types of coins, reflecting the political divisions of the island. While silver coins became less common compared to copper, they still played a role, especially in trade. The designs on these coins tell a story of shifting power dynamics, cultural exchange, and the fragmentation of a once unified state. They are, honestly, a metallic record of a complex and often turbulent chapter in Sri Lankan history, bridging the gap between the ancient kingdoms and the arrival of European powers. The arrival of the Portuguese in 1505 marked the beginning of the colonial era and brought profound changes to Sri Lanka's currency. The Portuguese were primarily interested in controlling the island's lucrative spice trade. To facilitate this, they introduced their own silver coins. These included the tanga and the real, which circulated alongside local currencies. The Portuguese did not establish a full-fledged mint on the island for silver coinage initially. Instead, they relied on coins brought from their mints in Goa and Europe. However, they did countermark local coins, such as the larin or fishhook money, to authorize them for use in the territories they controlled. When the Dutch ousted the Portuguese in the mid-17th century, they took a more systematic approach to coinage. The Dutch East India Company, also known as the VOC, established mints in Colombo, Galle, Jaffna, and Trincomalee. They began issuing their own silver coins specifically for use in Ceylon, as they called the island. One of the most prominent of these was the silver riksdollar, or Rijksdaalder. These large, impressive coins, along with their fractions like the stiver, became the dominant currency in Dutch-held territories. The coins were clearly marked with the VOC monogram, signifying the company's authority, and often the year and mint location. This was a major step towards a modern, standardized colonial currency. The Dutch silver coins were of high quality and were trusted in trade. They were used to pay officials and soldiers and to purchase cinnamon, elephants, and other valuable goods. The introduction of the riksdollar standardized the monetary system in the coastal areas under Dutch control. However, in the interior, the independent Kandyan kingdom continued to use its traditional currency, including the silver larins. This created a dual currency system on the island. The Dutch also issued silver commemorative medals to mark important events, showcasing their minting skill and asserting their power and permanence on the island. Their coinage had a lasting impact, with terms like stiver remaining in local use for a long time. This period of European intervention completely remade Sri Lanka's silver currency. The indigenous designs and symbols that had lasted for over a millennium were replaced by European motifs, scripts, and denominations. The minting technology became more advanced, producing uniform, machine-struck coins that were difficult to counterfeit. While the Portuguese, Dutch, and later the British introduced more efficient monetary systems, they also erased a long and rich local tradition. The silver coins of the colonial era are a testament to this clash of civilizations, representing the economic mechanics of colonial domination and the integration of Sri Lanka into a new global economic order. In 1796, the British took control of the island's coastal areas from the Dutch, and by 1815, they had conquered the last independent Kandyan kingdom. This brought the entire island under a single colonial administration for the first time. The British initially continued to use the Dutch silver riksdollar, but they soon sought to integrate Ceylon's economy with their vast empire, particularly with British India. In 1825, a crucial decision was made to replace the riksdollar with the British sterling currency. However, the system of pounds, shillings, and pence proved unpopular and confusing for a population accustomed to a decimal-based system. The major turning point came in 1869. The British administration decided to abandon the sterling system and adopt a decimal currency based on the Indian rupee. This new currency was divided into 100 cents. The first Ceylonese silver coins under this new system were issued in 1892. These included the 50-cent, 25-cent, and 10-cent pieces. These coins were minted in Britain and featured the portrait of the reigning monarch, Queen Victoria, on the obverse. The reverse side showed a palm tree, a symbol of Ceylon, along with the denomination in English, Sinhala, and Tamil. This trilingual inscription was a significant feature, acknowledging the island's diverse population. The introduction of the silver rupee and its fractions marked the beginning of modern currency in Sri Lanka. The coins were machine-struck to a high standard, with uniform weight and purity. This new, reliable decimal currency simplified commerce and financial administration across the island. The silver coins remained in circulation for several decades, with the monarch's portrait changing from Queen Victoria to King Edward VII, King George V, and King George VI. However, the rising price of silver, especially during the World Wars, made it uneconomical to continue using it for circulating coins. By the 1940s, silver was replaced by cheaper alloys like nickel brass and cupro nickel for most denominations. After Sri Lanka gained independence in 1948, the country continued to use the same currency system for a time. But in 1963, the newly formed Central Bank of Sri Lanka issued its first series of coins. These coins replaced the British monarch's portrait with the armorial ensign of Ceylon. While regular circulating coins were no longer made of silver, the tradition of silver coinage was kept alive through the issuance of commemorative coins. These special issues, struck in silver, marked important national events, anniversaries, and cultural themes. They became popular with collectors both locally and internationally, serving as beautiful mementos of the nation's history and heritage. The journey of silver coins in Sri Lanka is marked by several key milestones that define its evolution over 2,300 years. The first major milestone was the introduction of the very first coins to the island around the 3rd century BCE. These were the silver punch-marked coins, or kahapanas, from India. They arrived with traders and Buddhist missionaries, transforming a barter-based society into a monetary economy. These small, irregular pieces of silver, stamped with symbols of Indian kingdoms and guilds, represent the genesis of currency in Sri Lanka and the island's early integration into regional trade networks. They are the foundational artifacts of Sri Lankan numismatic history. The second milestone was the creation of the first indigenous royal coins. After a period of using Indian currency, local rulers in Anuradhapura began minting their own silver coins. These coins, featuring distinct local symbols like the swastika, the railed tree, and the elephant, were a declaration of sovereignty. Later, during the height of the Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa kingdoms, this evolved into the issuance of the iconic Kahavanu coin. This standardized coin, with its standing king and seated figure design, became the official currency of the great classical kingdoms. It represents a golden age of stability, royal authority, and economic prosperity. A third critical milestone was the introduction of the first modern machine-struck decimal currency under British rule. The decision in 1869 to adopt a rupee-based decimal system, followed by the issuance of the first silver 50, 25 and 10-cent coins in 1892, marked a radical shift. These coins, bearing the portrait of Queen Victoria, standardized the island's currency and integrated it into the British imperial economy. This move replaced diverse colonial and local currencies with a single, unified system. It laid the groundwork for the monetary system that Sri Lanka uses to this day, representing the transition from ancient and medieval coinage to the era of modern money. The final milestone occurred after independence. It was the issuance of the first commemorative silver coin by the Republic of Sri Lanka. While silver was no longer used for everyday currency, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka revived its use for special, non-circulating legal tender coins. The first such coin, a silver 5 rupee coin issued in 1976 to mark the 5th Non-Aligned Movement Summit Conference held in Colombo, started a new tradition. These modern commemorative silver coins connect the present day with the island's long and illustrious history of silver coinage. They celebrate national identity and heritage, ensuring that the legacy of silver continues for future generations of collectors and historians. The silver coins of Sri Lanka are much more than just old money. They are a tangible record of the island's rich and complex history. Each coin is a small artifact that tells a story of trade, religion, war, and cultural exchange. From the earliest Indian punch-marked coins that speak of ancient maritime connections, to the royal issues of Anuradhapura that symbolize a golden age, these coins are primary historical documents. They provide evidence that can confirm or challenge written chronicles. They help us trace the rise and fall of kingdoms, the spread of religions like Buddhism and Hinduism, and the shifting centers of power across the island over more than 2 millennia. Artistically, Sri Lankan silver coins showcase a remarkable evolution in design and technology. The early local coins, with their abstract and powerful symbols like the swastika and the sacred tree, reflect the deep spiritual beliefs of the society. The classic Kahavanu design, though borrowed, was adapted into a unique and enduring Sri Lankan style that lasted for centuries. The later colonial coins demonstrate the high technical skill of European mints, with their realistic portraits and precise lettering. For art historians, these coins are a gallery in miniature, displaying the changing aesthetic tastes and iconographic traditions of the island through different historical periods. Economically, the history of silver coinage charts Sri Lanka's journey from a local barter economy to a key player in global trade, and finally, to a modern nation-state. The purity and weight of coins tell us about the economic health of the kingdoms that issued them. Hoards of Roman, Persian, and Chinese coins found on the island underscore its importance as a central hub on the ancient Silk Road of the sea. The transition from the Dutch riksdollar to the British rupee reflects the changing tides of colonial power and the island's forceful integration into different imperial economic systems. These coins are markers of major economic transformations. Today, Sri Lankan silver coins have immense value for collectors and numismatists. They are sought after not only for their rarity and metallic worth, but for the historical narratives they encapsulate. Collecting these coins is a way of preserving a piece of the nation's heritage. Each coin, from a humble silver massa to a grand colonial riksdollar or a modern commemorative rupee, is a link in a long, unbroken chain of history. They are a testament to the island's resilience, its artistic achievements, and its enduring place at the crossroads of world history. The legacy of Sri Lanka's silver coins is a legacy written in metal, as precious and enduring as the silver itself.